They sent Harper Vance the reunion invitation as a final joke. The quiet girl they had erased from every memory, every photo, every moment that mattered. 10 years later, they gathered at the Meridian Club to celebrate how far they had come, how much they had achieved. The champagne was flowing, the laughter loud, when the building began to shake. The windows cracked, the chandeliers swayed, and through the dust and chaos, something descended from the sky that would silence 200 people forever. What happened next would rewrite everything they thought they knew. Before we continue, if stories of quiet dignity and unsung heroes resonate with you, tell me where you're watching from. This story of Harper reminds us that true strength needs no announcement. I read every comm. The private club sits on the 40th floor of downtown Denver, floor-to-ceiling windows framing the Rocky Mountains in the distance. Late afternoon sun cuts through the glass, painting long shadows across the polished table where 4 people gather. The city spreads below them like a circuit board, all lines and lights and lives being lived without knowledge of what transpires here. Cade Brennan leans back in his chair, tablet resting on one knee, his other hand loosely gripping a whiskey glass. His suit is charcoal gray, perfectly tailored, the kind that costs 3 months' rent for most people. He scrolls with practiced ease, the gesture of someone accustomed to controlling things with the flick of a finger. Across from him, Quinn Harlow angles her phone toward the window, capturing the golden light, her face positioned just so. She snaps 5 photos in rapid succession, reviews them with a critical eye, deletes 3. Her hair falls in calculated waves, styled to look effortless but requiring an hour of work she'll never acknowledge. Garrett Pierce sits perfectly still, his posture military in its precision. Patent attorney, 43 years old, every conversation a negotiation, every silence a strategy. He swirls amber liquid in a crystal tumbler, watching the ice shift, his expression revealing nothing. Dalton Reed completes the group, youngest by 3 years, lean and restless. His startup launched 18 months ago, already valued at $12 million. He checks his phone, scrolls, checks again, unable to sit still, unable to simply exist without monitoring something. They are planning the Ridgemont Prep Class of 2017 reunion with the enthusiasm of people who peaked early and never quite moved past it. Cade stops scrolling. His eyes catch something on the screen. A slow smile spreads across his face, predatory and deliberate. He turns the tablet toward the others. "Wait," he says. "What about Harper?" Quinn looks up from her phone. Her eyes widen. Then she laughs, the sound too loud for the intimate space, drawing glances from nearby tables. She covers her mouth, but the laughter keeps coming. "Oh my God." She gasps between breaths. "Harper Vance. I completely forgot she even existed." Garrett leans forward, squinting at the screen, his brow furrows. "The girl who ate lunch in the stairwell every single day?" Dalton grins, leaning in closer, his eyes lighting with recognition. "This is perfect," he says, tapping the table with 2 fingers. "We send her an invite. She shows up thinking people actually want to see her, that maybe things are different now." Quinn picks up the thread immediately, her laughter subsiding into something sharper. "And we get to show everyone how far we've come," she says. "The contrast alone would be..." She pauses, searching for the right word. "Absolutely perfect." Cade is already typing, adding Harper's name to the digital guest list with theatrical flair. "To Harper Vance," he narrates aloud as he types. "Ridgemont Prep Class of 2017 reunion, at the Meridian Club, black tie required." He looks up, grinning. "Bet she shows up in a Goodwill dress." Garrett smirks, lifting his glass. $100 she doesn't show at all. Quinn raises her own glass, tilting it toward the others. "Oh, she'll show," she says, her voice low and certain. "Girls like Harper never miss it. They always hope." They touch glasses together, the sound crisp and bright in the warm air. The gesture feels less like celebration and more like conspiracy, a shared understanding that some people exist only to make others feel better about their own lives. Cade taps a final button. A notification appears. Invitation delivered. The camera holds on the tablet screen, zooming slowly on the yearbook photo attached to Harper's name. School portrait from 10 years ago, taken in a gymnasium with portable lights and a gray backdrop. The girl in the photo is gaunt, almost hollow, with thick-rimmed glasses that dominate her thin face. Her hair hangs limp and unstyled. She wears an oversized cardigan that swallows her already small frame. But it's her eyes that arrest the viewer. They stare directly forward, unblinking, distant, as if looking not at the photographer, but through him, past him, into something farther away. There's no smile, no attempt at warmth, just that quiet, unsettling stare. The screen freezes on that image. Then the scene shifts. Fragments of memory appear, quick cuts without dialogue, just images. Harper sits alone in a concrete stairwell, back against cold wall, a book open in front of her. The title is visible, Naval Aviation Fundamentals. Around her, students rush past, laughing, shouting, living their lives as if she's invisible. She turns a page, her expression unchanged, her focus absolute. The next image shows her notebook, pages torn out, scattered across the hallway floor. Harper kneels, gathering them carefully, methodically. Behind her, a group of students watches, Quinn among them, smiling as she whispers to the girl beside her. A classroom appears. A teacher returns tests, moving down the rows. When she reaches Harper, she pauses, nods with faint approval. Harper turns the paper over. 97%. Behind her, Cade receives his 71%. He glances at Harper's score, his jaw tightening. He crumples his test and throws it at the back of her head. It bounces off. Harper doesn't turn around. She simply folds her test and places it carefully in her folder. The final fragment, Career Day in the Gymnasium. Rows of booths, each representing different professions or military branches. In the far corner, a booth with a banner reading U.S. Navy Recruitment. Behind the table sits an officer in dress whites, patient and professional. Only one person stands there. Harper. She leans forward, asking something the camera can't hear. The officer hands her a pamphlet. She takes it with both hands, as if it's something precious. Across the gym, students point and laugh. One mimics a salute, exaggerating the motion. The others double over. Harper doesn't look at them. She thanks the officer, tucks the pamphlet into her bag, and walks away. The last image, awards night. The auditorium is full, parents and students filling the seats. Harper sits alone in the back row, 3 empty seats on either side. Her name is called for academic excellence. She walks to the stage alone, accepts the certificate, returns to her seat alone. No one claps beyond the polite, obligatory applause. She stares at the certificate for a long moment, then places it carefully in her backpack and walks out. The camera holds on the empty doorway, the space she left behind. The Meridian Club rises from downtown Denver like a monument to excess. Stone facade, 3 stories, every window glowing warm against the evening sky. String lights wrap around columns and hang in swooping arcs across the entrance. A valet circle curves in front, red carpet stretching from curb to double doors. Luxury cars arrive in steady succession, sleek sedans, convertibles, each more expensive than the last. Valets in crisp uniforms rush to open doors, extending hands to guests who step out in designer gowns and tailored suits. Cade, Quinn, Garrett, and Dalton stand near the entrance like royalty receiving subjects. They greet each arrival with wide smiles and enthusiastic embraces, the kind of performative warmth that photographs well, but feels hollow up close. Quinn holds her phone in one hand, snapping candid shots, already mentally composing captions. Cade shakes hands with a former classmate, laughing at something that probably isn't funny. Garrett accepts champagne from a passing server. Dalton checks his watch, then glances toward the driveway. Quinn leans closer to Dalton, her voice dropping to a whisper. "She confirmed," she says. "Checked this morning." Dalton raises an eyebrow. "Alone?" Quinn smiles. "Of course." Cade glances at his watch, frowning slightly. "She's late. Probably couldn't find anything to wear." They laugh and move inside. The ballroom is spectacular. Vaulted ceilings, crystal chandeliers casting prismatic light across polished floors. Round tables draped in white linen fill the space, each topped with elaborate floral arrangements. At the far end, a massive screen displays a rotating slideshow of yearbook photos, prom pictures, candid moments frozen in time. The images cycle slowly, each greeted with ripples of recognition and laughter. People point at the screen, groaning, reminiscing about fashion choices that haven't aged well. When Harper's yearbook photo appears, the room erupts. Laughter echoes from every corner, unrestrained and cruel. Someone near the bar shouts, "Oh my God, I forgot about her!" Another voice from across the room, "She was so weird. Didn't she want to fly planes or something?" More laughter. Someone else adds, "Yeah, good luck with that." The photo lingers on screen for a few more seconds. That same gaunt face, those same thick glasses, that same distant stare. Then cycles to the next image. The laughter fades, replaced by conversation and the clink of silverware. Quinn stands near the dance floor, filming a quick video. She smiles into the camera, her voice bright and performative. "Reunion glow-up check," she says, tilting the phone to capture the room behind her. "Let's see who shows up tonight." She winks and ends the recording. Garrett stands at a table near the entrance, nursing his second whiskey. He leans toward Dalton, who has finally stopped checking his watch. $100 says she Ubers, Garrett says, smirking. Dalton snorts. "I'm thinking she doesn't show." They shake on it, sealing the wager with casual cruelty. Inside, the party continues. A jazz band plays swing standards. A few couples move onto the dance floor. Servers circulate with trays of champagne and hors d'oeuvres. The slideshow keeps cycling, each photo met with cheers or groans or good-natured teasing. It's the kind of night that feels perfect on the surface, the kind people will post about and remember fondly, the kind that hides its cruelty beneath layers of nostalgia and expensive wine. Then the music stops. It cuts off mid-song, abrupt and jarring, as if someone yanked a plug from the wall. The sudden silence is disorienting. People freeze, drinks halfway to lips, conversations trailing into confused murmurs. A low sound begins to fill the space. Faint at first, almost imperceptible, like a distant heartbeat. Thump. 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 The sound vibrates through the floor, rattling glasses on tables, making the chandeliers sway. Champagne spills from a tipped flute, spreading across white linen. Cade frowns, looking around. What is that? The sound grows louder, deeper, more insistent. Thump. 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 The vibrations intensify. People can feel them in their chests, in their bones. A champagne flute tips over. Someone gasps. Another person laughs nervously, unsure if this is part of the entertainment. Garrett sets his drink down. Is that thunder? But it isn't thunder. Thunder comes in bursts, in crashes. This is steady, mechanical, relentless. The sound continues to build, filling the ballroom, drowning out murmurs and nervous laughter. The chandeliers sway more visibly now, crystals clinking together in discordant melody. A hairline crack appears in one of the tall windows, spreading slowly outward like a spider web. Someone screams. The crowd surges toward the windows and French doors, a collective movement driven by confusion and fear. People push past one another, craning to see what's happening outside. The sound is deafening now, a deep mechanical roar that seems to come from everywhere at once. The floor shakes, the walls tremble. The entire building feels as if it's holding its breath. Quinn stumbles toward the nearest window, phone clutched in one hand, face pale. She presses her palm against the glass, staring out into the night. "What is happening?" she whispers. The French doors blow open, propelled by sudden wind, and the crowd spills onto the lawn. The camera follows in a single unbroken shot, weaving through chaos, capturing confusion etched into every face. Outside, the night air is thick with dust and noise. The manicured lawn, pristine moments before, is now obscured by a swirling cloud of debris. The roar is overwhelming, a physical force pressing against eardrums. And then, through the dust, a shape begins to emerge. It descends from the sky like something from another world. The AH-64 Apache attack helicopter is massive, rotors slicing the air with brutal precision, kicking up dirt and grass in spiraling waves. Landing lights blaze white-hot, illuminating stunned faces. 180 guests standing frozen on the lawn, mouths open, eyes wide, unable to comprehend. The helicopter descends slowly, deliberately, as if it has all the time in the world. The noise is unbearable. The wind is relentless. Yet no one moves. No one runs. They stand transfixed. The Apache touches down with a shudder, landing gear sinking into soft earth. The rotors begin to slow, the roar diminishing to a steady hum. Dust settles, drifting back to ground in lazy spirals. The silence that follows is worse than the noise. Heavy, expectant, as if the entire world is holding its breath. The side door opens. A gloved hand grips the frame. A boot touches ground. The camera holds on the silhouette backlit by interior lights, a dark figure framed against glow. For a moment, no one moves. No one speaks. Then Quinn's voice breaks the silence, barely audible, trembling. "Harper?" The figure steps fully into view. Harper Vance stands before them, unrecognizable from the yearbook photo. Gone is the gaunt, fragile girl. In her place stands a woman forged by discipline and sacrifice. She wears a full naval aviator flight suit, olive green and perfectly fitted, patches on her shoulders reading U.S. Navy and HSC-12. A trident insignia gleams on her chest, unmistakable. Her hair is pulled back in a tight, functional bun. Her face is calm, composed, carved by years of training and survival. She removes her helmet with one smooth motion, tucking it under her arm. Her gaze sweeps across the crowd, steady and unwavering. She doesn't smile. She doesn't need to. Behind her, 2 crew members step out, both in uniform, both standing at attention. One, a young crew chief, salutes her. "Ma'am," he says clearly, "we'll be on standby." Harper returns the salute with precision. "Thank you, Chief." She begins to walk forward. The crowd parts, not because anyone consciously decides to move, but because something about her presence demands it. She walks with confidence born from knowing exactly who she is and what she's done. Every step measured, deliberate, unhurried. Whispers begin to ripple through the crowd like wildfire. "Wait," someone says near the front. "Isn't she the one who—" Another voice picks up the thread. "The Somalia thing, that was her crew." A third voice, frantic, already pulling out a phone. "Holy, she's a Navy pilot." Another guest, louder now. "She got the Navy Cross." The murmurs grow, overlapping, building into a wave of realization crashing over the crowd in slow motion. Phones come out, screens glow, people frantically type her name, pulling up articles, photos, commendations. The evidence is undeniable. The girl they mocked, the girl they erased, the girl they invited as a joke. She's a decorated war hero. Harper reaches the entrance. Cade, Quinn, Garrett, and Dalton stand blocking the doorway, frozen, faces pale, expressions caught between shock and horror. Harper stops in front of Cade. She looks him directly in the eye. "You sent me an invitation," she says. Her voice is calm, steady, without anger or bitterness, a simple statement of fact. Cade stammers, mouth opening and closing. Yes, we thought—" He can't finish. Harper holds his gaze one moment longer. Then she says quietly, "I'm here." She walks past them. They don't move. They can't. Inside the ballroom, the slideshow still plays. Harper's yearbook photo appears on the massive screen. Same gaunt face, same thick glasses, same quiet stare. Harper stops in the center of the room and looks up at it. Every person in the ballroom turns to stare at her. The contrast is staggering. The girl on the screen looks like a ghost. The woman standing before them looks like a force of nature. Someone whispers, "That's her?" The question hangs unanswered. Movement comes from the back of the crowd. An older man in navy dress whites steps forward. He's early 60s, chest covered in ribbons, bearing unmistakably military. His name is Colonel Marcus Webb, and he walks with authority that makes people step aside without thinking. He approaches Harper. When he speaks, his voice carries across the entire ballroom. "Commander Vance." Harper turns. Surprise flickers across her face. "Colonel Webb." He smiles, warm and genuine. "I was in town for a conference. Heard you might be here tonight, thought I'd pay my respects." He extends his hand. She shakes it. The crowd watches, utterly confused, unable to piece together what they're witnessing. Colonel Webb turns to address the room, voice commanding. "For those who don't know," he says, "Commander Harper Vance is a naval aviator and decorated combat search and rescue pilot. She's flown missions in some of the most hostile environments on the planet." The room is silent. 2 years ago, Webb continues, she led the extraction of 9 SEALs under sustained RPG fire in Somalia. She stayed airborne for 7 hours, taking enemy fire, to bring them home. Every single one survived. He pauses, letting the weight settle. She was awarded the Navy Cross for Valor. The silence is absolute. No one moves. No one breathes. Colonel Webb steps back. He straightens. Then, with deliberate ceremony, he salutes her. Harper, visibly moved, returns the salute. 2 other figures step forward from different parts of the crowd, both older, both wearing pieces of their service. A Marine Corps pin, a Navy ball cap. They salute her as well. Harper returns each salute, her jaw tight, her eyes meeting theirs with quiet acknowledgement. When the last salute is returned, the veterans step back, melting into the crowd. The slideshow changes. A new image appears, recent, sharp, vivid. Harper in full combat gear beside an Apache, dirt smudged across her cheek, helmet under one arm. Her crew surrounds her, all exhausted, all smiling. The helicopter behind them is battered, scorch marks visible along the fuselage. The contrast between the 2 images, between the fragile girl in the yearbook and the warrior in the photograph, is undeniable. A woman near the back begins to cry, hand over mouth, sobs escaping despite effort to stifle them. Another guest wipes his eyes, turning away. Someone else simply stares, trying to reconcile 2 versions of the same person. Quinn stands frozen near the dance floor, phone still recording, screen trembling. For the first time in years, she has no idea what to say. No caption, no curated response. She simply watches the woman she once mocked stand untouchable. Garrett grips the bar edge, knuckles white. Dalton has stopped checking his watch, staring at Harper with something like fear. Cade hasn't moved from the doorway, arms hanging limply, face slack. People see what they expect to see. A girl alone in a stairwell, a gaunt face behind thick glasses. They miss the truth because they never learned to look past the surface. Harper understood this early, lived it daily, and asked for nothing in return. Harper turns from the screen and walks toward the glass doors opening onto a balcony. She pauses, hand on the handle, and turns back to face the room. The entire crowd watches. 180 people frozen, waiting. She doesn't speak. Her presence alone is louder than words. From the center of the room, a voice breaks the silence. "Wait." Garrett has stepped forward, moving with careful precision, trying to regain control. He straightens his tie, forces a smile. "Harper," he says, voice smooth. "This is incredible, truly. We had no idea. We just thought..." He pauses. "We thought it would be nice to see you again." Harper looks at him. Her expression doesn't change. Garrett falters. The smile wavers. Harper speaks. "You thought it would be nice," she repeats, testing the words. She lets them hang. "You invited me here as a joke." The room goes silent again. "I saw the group chat," Harper says. Her voice remains calm, measured, utterly devoid of emotion. Quinn's breath catches audibly. Cade closes his eyes. Dalton takes a step back. Harper continues. "One of you sent screenshots." Garrett's face drains of color. "I read everything," Harper says. "The jokes about what I'd wear, the bets about whether I'd show, the plan to welcome me in front of everyone so you could all feel better about yourselves." Garrett stammers, trying to form a response, but nothing coherent emerges. Harper doesn't wait for him to recover. "I came anyway," she says. "Not because I needed your approval, Not because I wanted to prove anything. I came to see who you became." She looks around the room, gaze sweeping across faces of former classmates, people who shared 4 years of her life and spent most of that time pretending she didn't exist. Some look away, unable to meet her eyes. Others stare back, transfixed. "Same people," Harper says simply. "Same cruelty." She turns and pushes open the glass doors, stepping onto the balcony. Cool night air rushes in, carrying scents of pine and city lights. The doors swing shut behind her. For a moment, the ballroom is completely still. Then chaos erupts. Whispers explode all at once, voices overlapping, competing. Did she just say we invited her as a joke? Oh my God. We did. How did she get the chat? Does it matter? We're horrible. Someone near the bar says, "I can't believe we thought this was funny." Another voice responds, "I can't believe I laughed." Quinn stands motionless, staring at the closed doors. Slowly, deliberately, she raises her phone and opens the video she'd been recording. She watches for a few seconds, expression blank. Then she taps the screen. The video disappears, deleted. She lowers the phone, hands trembling. Cade finally moves. He pushes from the doorway and walks to the bar, movement stiff. He pours a drink, downs it in one swallow, pours another. Doesn't look at anyone, just drinks. Dalton sinks into a chair at an empty table, head in hands. Garrett stands alone in the center of the ballroom, frozen where Harper left him. Outside on the balcony, Harper stands at the railing, looking out over the city. The helicopter is visible on the lawn below, rotors still, crew standing nearby in quiet conversation. The night is calm, stars visible above the city glow. She takes a slow breath, letting air fill her lungs, letting silence settle. Footsteps approach from behind. Harper doesn't turn. A woman's voice, hesitant and shaking, breaks the silence. "Harper?" Harper turns. Standing in the doorway is someone she vaguely remembers. Riley Callahan. They shared a few classes, never spoke. Riley was part of the crowd, not a ringleader, but not someone who ever stood up either. Riley stands there now, tears streaming down her face, hands clasped tightly. "I'm sorry," she says, voice breaking. "I never stood up for you. I saw what they did and I did nothing. I was scared." She pauses. "I'm ashamed." Harper studies her for a long moment. Riley doesn't look away. She stands exposed, vulnerable, waiting for judgment or forgiveness or anything. Harper nods slowly. "Thank you," she says quietly. Riley hesitates, wanting to say more, but then simply nods and turns to leave. She pauses in the doorway, looking back. "You're incredible," she says. Then she walks back into the ballroom, leaving Harper alone again. Harper turns back to the railing, stands there another moment, letting the night settle around her. Then she straightens, decision made, and walks back toward the doors. Inside, the crowd has begun to disperse. Some guests are leaving, calling for cars, unwilling or unable to stay longer. Others linger in small groups, speaking in hushed tones, earlier laughter replaced by something quieter, heavier. The slideshow has stopped. The screen is dark. The jazz band packed up and left without anyone noticing. Harper walks through the room one last time. People step aside, but this time it feels different. No awe, no spectacle, just quiet acknowledgement. A man she doesn't recognize nods as she passes. A woman touches her hand briefly, apology or respect or both. Harper doesn't stop. She simply walks, pace steady, expression calm. Colonel Webb stands near the entrance, waiting. When Harper reaches him, he extends his hand again. "It was an honor, Commander." Harper shakes his hand. "The honor was mine, sir." He smiles. "Take care of yourself." "I will." She walks past him, through the entrance, out onto the front steps. The valet has brought the crew's vehicle around, but Harper waves it off. She walks across the drive, down the remnants of red carpet, onto the lawn where the Apache still waits. The crew sees her coming and straightens, The crew chief who saluted earlier steps forward. "Ready when you are, ma'am." Harper climbs into the helicopter. The crew follows, securing doors, checking instruments, preparing for departure. The rotors begin to spin. Slowly at first, then faster, sound building into familiar roar that shook the building an hour before. Inside the ballroom, remaining guests hear the sound and move to windows. They watch as the helicopter lifts off, rising smoothly into night sky. Landing lights blink in steady rhythm, growing smaller as the aircraft gains altitude. Quinn stands at one of the windows, her reflection faint in glass. She watches the helicopter until it disappears completely, swallowed by darkness. Then she turns away, shoulders slumped, and walks toward the exit without looking back. Cade stands at the bar, staring into his empty glass. He sets it down carefully as if afraid it might shatter, and leaves without saying goodbye to anyone. Garrett sits alone at one of the tables, head bowed, hands folded. He doesn't move for a long time. Dalton has already left. No one saw him go. The ballroom empties slowly, guests trickling out in ones and twos, leaving behind half-finished drinks and abandoned centerpieces. Staff begins cleaning, moving quietly through the space, clearing tables, folding chairs, turning off lights. Within an hour, the room is empty, silent, as if the night never happened. But it did. Outside on the lawn, the grass is torn up where the helicopter landed, deep grooves carved into earth by the machine's weight. The marks will remain for weeks, visible reminder that something extraordinary happened here, something that can't be erased or ignored or laughed away. High above, the Apache continues its flight, cutting through night sky with precision. Inside the cockpit, Harper sits at controls, hands steady, focus absolute. The city lights spread below, a glittering sprawl of roads and buildings and lives being lived. She doesn't look back. There's nothing behind her worth seeing anymore. The crew chief's voice crackles through the headset. "Course set for base, ma'am. ETA 40 minutes. Harper acknowledges with a brief nod. "Copy that." The helicopter banks slightly, adjusting trajectory, and continues on. The night is clear, stars bright, horizon endless. Harper flies with ease that comes from thousands of hours airborne, from missions flown in conditions most people can't imagine, from a life built on discipline and sacrifice, and unshakable refusal to let anyone define her worth. She went to the reunion not for revenge, not for validation, but for closure, and she found it. Not in their apologies, not in their shock, but in the simple act of walking away with her dignity intact. The people who tried to break her failed. And now, flying through the night, surrounded by her crew, heading back to the life she built, she feels something she hasn't felt in a long time. Peace. The helicopter's navigation lights blink steadily, red and green against black sky, a beacon moving through darkness. Below, the city continues on, unaware of the woman passing overhead, unaware of the story that just unfolded in a ballroom miles away. But the people in that ballroom will remember. They'll carry the memory of this night for the rest of their lives. A quiet, inescapable reminder that the person they underestimated, the person they mocked, the person they tried to erase, became something far greater than any of them would ever be. And Harper Vance, flying through the night, surrounded by people who stood beside her in the worst moments, needs nothing more from them. She's already won. Back at the club, the last guests have left. Staff finishes work and turns off remaining lights, leaving the building dark and empty. The red carpet is rolled up. The valet stand is closed. The grounds return to quiet stillness. On the projection screen, now black and lifeless, the last image displayed remains burned into the memory of everyone who saw it. Harper in her flight suit, surrounded by her crew, smiling. Not the fragile, invisible girl they remembered, but the woman she became. A warrior, a leader, a legend. The night ends not with celebration, but with silence. And in that silence, a truth settles over everyone who was there. A truth they'll carry long after the reunion is forgotten. Some people are underestimated not because they're weak, but because others are too blind to see their strength. And when those people rise, when they prove the world wrong, The only response left is quiet, humbling respect. The Apache cuts through night with mechanical precision, rotors slicing air in steady beats echoing across empty sky. Inside the cockpit, Harper sits at controls, hands resting lightly on cyclic and collective, gaze fixed on horizon where city lights bleed into darkness. Instruments glow softly, displaying altitude, speed, heading. All data needed to navigate sky with ease, born from years of training and thousands of hours airborne. The crew chief sits beside her, monitoring systems, running post-flight checks. Behind them, in the crew compartment, the other member sits in silence, helmet resting on lap, face shadowed in dim light. The headset crackles. "Ma'am," the crew chief says. "Base is requesting confirmation." Harper glances at navigation display. 40 minutes, she says. "Tell them we're on schedule." "Copy that." He relays the information. When he finishes, he hesitates, then speaks again, tone softer. "That was something back there, ma'am." Harper doesn't respond immediately. She adjusts heading slightly, compensating for crosswind. The helicopter responds like an extension of her body, banking gently, finding new course with minimal effort. "I just showed up," she says finally, voice quiet. The crew chief smiles faintly. "Sometimes that's enough." Harper says nothing more. She keeps eyes forward, watching darkness ahead, the endless expanse of sky stretching in every direction. Up here, above noise and judgment and weight of other people's expectations, she feels something close to freedom. The helicopter responds to her slightest touch, and for a moment she allows herself to simply exist in the space between Earth and stars. There's no past here, no future. Only the present moment, the hum of engines, the feel of controls, the vast darkness surrounding her. Back in Denver, the Meridian Club is nearly empty. The last few guests linger near exits, conversations muted, nothing like the laughter that filled the space hours before. Staff moves quietly, collecting glassware, folding tablecloths, dismantling decorations. The slideshow screen remains dark, blank rectangle looming over the space like silent witness. Chandeliers cast cold light over the emptying room. Riley Callahan stands near a tall window, arms wrapped around herself. She stares at the lawn where the helicopter landed, her reflection ghostly in glass. The grass is torn up, deep gouges carved by the Apache's weight, brutal and unignorable. She hasn't left yet. She stands alone, replaying the night, replaying every moment she stood by and said nothing while Harper was mocked and erased. Every opportunity missed to be something other than complicit. The marks in the grass will heal eventually. Groundskeepers will repair damage, new sod will be laid. But the marks this night left on her will never fully disappear. Elsewhere in the city, in separate apartments and homes, 4 people sit alone in darkness. Cade stands at his window looking out over Denver, expensive whiskey untouched on the sill. He's spent 10 years accumulating wealth and status, building a portfolio that looks impressive on paper, but feels hollow when measured against what Harper accomplished. He doesn't want to drink away what he's feeling. He wants to feel it, every bit, because maybe that's the beginning of something. Quinn sits in her apartment, phone dark beside her. She hasn't posted anything since the helicopter landed. For the first time in years, she has no idea what to say. No way to spin what happened into something palatable. The carefully constructed version of herself feels hollow now, exposed as fiction built on cruelty. Garrett drives through empty streets, replaying Harper's words. He's spent his career finding angles, constructing narratives, defending the indefensible. But standing on that lawn, looking at torn earth where an Apache landed, he realized there's no defense for what he did, no argument that could make it right. Dalton sits at his desk, laptop open, reading articles about Harper. Every piece reinforces what he already knows. She became extraordinary. She took pain and isolation and transformed it into something remarkable, and he tried to humiliate her. Deep, gnawing shame settles over each of them. Shame that can't be rationalized away or reframed or spun into a learning experience. High above, the Apache continues its flight. The lights of urban sprawl give way to darker terrain. forests and hills and open fields stretching beneath them. Harper adjusts collective, maintaining altitude with micro-movements, actions automatic and fluid. The crew has gone quiet, lost in their own thoughts. Harper thinks about the reunion, letting memories flow without judgment. She thinks about faces in the crowd, shock and shame, quiet realization spreading like a wave. She thinks about Cade's stammering, Quinn's trembling hands, Garrett's hollow smile crumbling. She hadn't gone seeking revenge. She'd simply wanted to see if they'd changed, if years had softened the cruelty, if any had grown beyond who they were at 18. They hadn't changed. Not until tonight. But that's not her burden anymore. She'd done what she came to do. She'd shown them exactly who she became. Not for their approval, but for herself. To prove once and for all that their cruelty hadn't defined her, hadn't limited her, hadn't succeeded in making her believe she was what they said. The headset crackles. "Ma'am, we're 10 minutes out." Harper nods. "Copy that. Prepare for landing." The crew begins pre-landing checks. Harper adjusts heading, lining up approach, focus narrowing until everything else falls away. The base appears on horizon, cluster of lights against darkness, familiar and welcoming. This is home. Not a building or city, but this life, this purpose, these people who understand what it means to serve something larger than yourself. She guides the helicopter down, descent smooth and controlled. The landing pad comes into view, marked by bright lights, and Harper brings the Apache down with precision, touching skids to ground so gently it barely registers. The rotors begin to slow, roar, diminishing to hum, then fading to silence. Harper goes through shutdown procedure methodically, flipping switches, checking gauges. When she finishes, she removes her helmet and sets it on the seat, running a hand through her hair. The crew chief turns to her with a tired smile. "Good flight, ma'am." Harper returns the smile, genuine and warm. "Good crew." They climb out, boots hitting tarmac with solid thuds. The night air is cool and still, carrying scent of jet fuel and cut grass. Harper walks slowly toward barracks, in no hurry, letting events settle like sediment in water. She thinks about Riley's apology, raw sincerity. She thinks about Colonel Webb's salute, weight of respect. She thinks about the look on Cade's face when she told him she knew. She thinks about the girl she'd been 10 years ago, sitting alone in a stairwell with her flight manual, dreaming of a life beyond cruelty. That girl had been invisible, written off, dismissed as a dreamer. But that girl had also been determined. She'd refused to let their cruelty define her. She'd taken every ounce of pain and turned it into fuel, into unshakable refusal to give up. And now that girl was gone. In her place stood a woman who'd flown rescue missions in hostile territory, who'd saved lives under fire, who'd earned respect and recognition, who wore the uniform and had been awarded the Navy Cross. Harper reaches her quarters and pauses outside, hand on handle. She looks up at stars one more time. Same stars she'd looked at as a teenager, same stars that had represented possibility and escape. Back then, the stars felt impossibly far away. Now she flies among them. She opens the door and steps inside, closing it quietly. The room is small and functional. A bed, a desk, a locker. No decorations, no personal touches. Just essentials. Harper sits on the edge of the bed and removes her boots, unlacing them carefully, setting them neatly by the door. She unzips her flight suit and hangs it in the locker. Then she sits back down and stares at the wall, letting silence fill the space. She thinks about the reunion one last time, processing it fully. The 4 people who orchestrated the joke expected her to arrive diminished. Instead, she arrived in an Apache, descending from the sky, wearing the uniform of someone who dedicated her life to something greater. The look on their faces was proof. Proof that she'd won. Proof that their cruelty failed. Proof that she became something they could never touch, something existing entirely outside their judgment. Harper lies back, not bothering with covers, and stares at the ceiling. She feels tired, but it's good tired. The kind from completing a mission, from doing what needed to be done, from facing something difficult and coming out intact. She closes her eyes and lets herself drift. Somewhere far away, 4 people sit alone, confronting the weight of their choices. They'll carry this night for the rest of their lives. Not as a memory of a reunion, but as a reckoning. A moment when the person they underestimated proved them wrong in the most undeniable way possible. And Harper, lying in her quarters hundreds of miles away, feels nothing toward them. Not anger, not satisfaction, not even pity, just indifference. They lost their power over her years ago, the moment she decided their assessment of her worth was meaningless. Tonight was simply the final confirmation, the closing of a chapter finished long before she walked into that ballroom. The people who protect us most are often the ones we never see. The missions that save lives never make the news. And sometimes the quietest voice in the room is the one that changed everything. To everyone who shared where you're watching from, thank you for recognizing those who serve in silence. Subscribe for more stories of unsung American heroes who prove that true greatness needs no announcement. See you in the next one.